Picture this. It's 3:17 a.m. in Manhattan. The city is asleep. The streets are quiet, but in a corner office lit by five glowing monitors, a hedge fund trader stares blankly at the screen. He just made over $5 million in a single day, but he's not celebrating. He's crying, and not the tears of joy you might expect. No champagne, no high fives, no triumphant music playing in the background, just silence, and a man unraveling, alone in the dark, overwhelmed not by failure, but by success. Why? Because somewhere along the way, his mind rewired itself. His brain began to fear the very thing he thought he wanted, winning. This isn't just his story. This is the silent fate of thousands of traders around the world, talented, intelligent people, quietly falling apart under the weight of pressure no one taught them how to carry. And the scariest part? It happens gradually. At first, it's just small things, skipping dinner to backtest, refreshing EUR/USD at 2 a.m., just checking one more chart before bed. Then starts to feel normal. Your wins don't feel like wins anymore. Your losses, they hurt more than they should. Your edge starts fading, and you don't know why. Until one day you find yourself in your own version of that Manhattan office, alone, burned out, and afraid of the very market that once made you feel alive. Welcome to the unspoken world of trading psychology. This isn't about strategy. It's not about finding the perfect setup. This is about you, your mind, your emotions, your relationship with the market. Because here's the truth no one tells you. 95% of traders fail, not because they lack skill, but because they collapse psychologically before they ever get the chance to grow. In this video, we're going to walk through that invisible battlefield. And I promise you, by the end of it, you'll start to see trading through a completely different lens. You'll understand why some of the smartest minds in finance walk away, not because they weren't good enough, but because they were never taught how to protect their inner game. And more importantly, you'll learn how not to become one of them. If you've ever felt that nagging tension in your chest after a bad trade, if you've ever felt numb after a win, if you've ever wondered, why does this feel so much harder than it should? This is for you. This is not financial advice. This is not a trading tutorial. This is your wake-up call. You're not weak. You're not broken. You're just human trading in an inhuman system. And that's where we begin. Let's take a deep breath and go to the root of what's really destroying traders from the inside out. Let me ask you something real. Have you ever opened your trading platform and felt a tightness in your chest, even before the chart loads? That's not just stress. That's something far more dangerous. It's what I call the death spiral, a slow, invisible descent that doesn't start with a blown account or a bad strategy. It starts in your nervous system. It starts in your mind. It begins with tiny, seemingly harmless behaviors. Checking charts before brushing your teeth, backtesting instead of calling your parents, skipping meals because you're almost there on a setup. The world around you doesn't notice. But inside, something begins to shift. Your sense of time warps. The market becomes the first thing you think about when you wake up and the last thing before you sleep. You stop living in the real world and start living in a world of candles, spreads, and signals. What you think is grind is actually the beginning of psychological decay. Let's get scientific for a second. Every time you push through exhaustion to take one more trade, every time you stay glued to the screen for 12 hours straight, every time you ignore the signals your body sends, fatigue, hunger, anxiety, your brain responds by producing cortisol. Cortisol is not just the stress hormone. In small doses, it sharpens focus, but in chronic doses, it's toxic. Over time, it begins to erode your prefrontal cortex, the very part of your brain responsible for logic, discipline, and decision-making. Let that sink in. The more you force yourself to grind, the more you literally damage your ability to trade well. You're not just tired. You're rewiring your brain into a fear-driven reactionary state that destroys your edge from the inside out. Let me give you a name. Alex, a highly skilled, well-funded trader, $2 million in capital. Deep understanding of macro setups, technical analysis, psychology. He's no beginner, but he's caught in the death spiral. Red Bulls become breakfast. Backtesting becomes obsession. Social life, gone. He tells himself he's just being disciplined, but what he doesn't see is the pattern building. He skips dinner, again, starts waking up anxious, ignores the growing knot in his stomach, shrugs off the headaches, the small tremors in his hands. The dread that creeps in when he sees a chart, not excitement dread, until one morning, during a minor 1.5% dip in Bitcoin futures, Alex breaks. His heart races. He can't breathe. His palms sweat. He thinks he's having a heart attack. It's not a bad trade. It's not even a big loss. It's a nervous system collapse, a full-scale panic attack caused by months of ignored psychological damage. And here's the thing. He was in profit. That's the death spiral. The deeper you go, the more disconnected you become from reality. Wins don't feel like wins. Losses feel like death. And your life starts revolving around one goal: survival. Not financial survival, emotional survival. And no one sees it, because from the outside, you still look like a trader, still posting setups, still showing green days, still in the game. But inside, you're drowning. Let me make this painfully clear. This isn't about discipline. This isn't about mental toughness. This is biology. You cannot out-discipline your nervous system. So, how do you stop it? Start by tracking what I call your emotional P&L. Forget profit for a moment. Every day ask yourself, how did I sleep last night? How are my relationships doing? Am I still excited to trade, or am I trading just to prove something? Am I avoiding people? Am I angry over small things? Am I silently hoping for a blow up so I'll have an excuse to quit? These are not soft questions. These are the real edge. Because while others are bragging about catching 50 pips, you'll be the one still standing 6 months from now, mentally intact. You want to win? Learn to listen to your nervous system. You want longevity? Respect your limits like you respect your stop loss. Because here's the raw truth. Your trading soul can collapse long before your capital ever does. It starts with pressure, then obsession, then withdrawal, then burnout, and finally, identity erosion, where you can't tell the difference between you, the human, and you, the trader. So when the market hits you, it doesn't just hit your account, it hits your entire sense of self. That's why the death spiral is so dangerous. It hides behind hard work. It wears the mask of discipline. It tells you you just need to push harder. But in reality, it's pulling you under. And if you don't stop to catch your breath, it will. Imagine this. You've been glued to your screen for 3 months straight. You've tracked every CPI release, every FOMC rumor, every candlestick wiggle on USD, JPY. You've pulled late nights, skipped dinners, turned down weekend plans, all because this market is hot. And then suddenly, you hit a wall. No setup feels right. Every trade feels forced. Even when you win, it feels flat. So what do? You double down. You push harder. Because that's what hustle culture taught you, right? Never stop. Sleep later. Rest is for the weak. You want to make it, you got to want it more. Wrong. Let me offer you a different paradigm. The best traders in the world, they disappear for days, sometimes weeks. And when they return, they don't just come back stronger, they come back sharper, faster, calmer, because they've tapped into a secret the grind-obsessed never learn. Strategic rest is not weakness, it's performance enhancement. Let's get real about how your brain works. Every single day, you make around 35,000 decisions. Every single one drains your cognitive battery. The more drained you are, the more reactive you become. You start seeing patterns where none exist. You force trades, you chase price, you take setups your logical mind would have passed on in a heartbeat, because now you're exhausted and you don't even know it. This is called decision fatigue, and it destroys precision. Now, imagine your brain as a high-performance processor. Would you run it 24/7 without ever restarting? Of course not. Yet that's exactly what most traders do. They never unplug, and that's why they burn out. That's why their trading edge fades. That's why they start second-guessing even the cleanest setups. The answer? Sabbaticals. Not forced breaks after a breakdown. Not vacations filled with chart checking on the beach. I'm talking about real, structured, strategic time away from the market. Let me give you a story. Alex, the trader we met earlier in the death spiral, finally listens. He forces himself into a full market sabbatical. No charts, no financial news, no Discord, no crypto Twitter, 2 weeks. Cold turkey. And at first it's torture. Withdrawal symptoms kick in. He paces the house, gets anxious every time he walks past his computer. His identity crumbles. If I'm not trading, who am I? But then something strange happens. On day 5, the noise starts to fade. On day 8, his creativity returns. By day 12, he's writing in his journal again, not about trades, but about life, about purpose, about why he started trading in the first place. And by day 14, he comes back, but he's not the same. He's centered, he's sharp, and his win rate spikes, not because his strategy changed, but because he changed. That's the power of intentional rest. And neuroscience backs it up. Structured breaks restore willpower, enhance memory retention, and rebuild prefrontal cortex connections responsible for decision making. Think of it like cold rebooting a laggy computer. When you unplug from the chaos, your system clears, your signal sharpens, your execution improves, and most importantly, you reclaim your emotional clarity because you can't make great decisions if your nervous system is stuck in fight or flight 24/7. Now, here's the kicker. Most traders never do this. They wait until they're emotionally wrecked, physically exhausted, and financially drained before they step back. But the elite, they schedule it before the burnout hits. Let me say that again. They schedule breaks the way others schedule trades. Unassuming it's part of their system. So how do you implement this? Simple. One full no chart day every week. No exceptions. Even if there's news, especially if there's news. One weekend per month. Completely disconnected from markets. No Discord, no apps, no quick check. One sabbatical every quarter. At least 7 to 14 days. Minimum. During those times, you don't become a worse trader, you become a more sustainable one. Because here's what you need to understand. Longevity isn't built by grinding harder. It's built by protecting your internal performance engine. You can't sprint a marathon, and trading is a marathon. If you feel resistance to this idea right now, if the thought of taking a break makes you feel anxious, like you'll fall behind, like others will pass you, that's your addiction talking. That's the very death spiral whispering in your ear. Don't rest. You'll lose your edge. But what it's really doing, it's erasing it. So step back, reset, unplug, let your nervous system breathe, because the truth is the market will still be there tomorrow. The only question is, will you? Let's talk about something most traders never admit out loud. You're winning, you're profitable, your equity curve is climbing. But inside, you feel nothing. No joy, no excitement, no pride, just an empty space where fulfillment used to live. This is burnout, but not the version you hear about in hustle podcasts or self-help books. This isn't about needing a nap or a weekend off. This is psychological bankruptcy. It happens silently, progressively, and brutally. And by the time you realize it's happening, you're already overdrawn on every emotional account you have. Let's break this down. Burnout isn't one thing. It's 3 stages of collapse. Emotional exhaustion. The tank is empty, and every day feels heavier than the last. Depersonalization. You start disconnecting from your trades, your wins, your relationships, even yourself. Reduced efficacy. Nothing feels like it's working. Even your best setups seem pointless. You go through the motions, but you're no longer in it. Let me paint the picture with a real story. Sarah is a rising star in a London hedge fund, multi-strategy specialist, sharp, calculated, respected. She nails a short on tech stocks, perfect execution, huge profit. The team heads out for celebration drinks. But Sarah, she can't stop thinking, why does this even matter? That's the red flag no one sees. Not a losing trade, not a drawdown, but an emotional detachment from success itself. It gets worse. A few weeks later, Sarah's mom calls during trading hours, but just as she picks up the phone, a flash crash alert pings her screen. Without hesitation, she drops the call. That's the moment. Not the missed trade, not the profit spike, not even the exhaustion. It's that silent decision to prioritize the market over her own mother, a decision she barely notices until it becomes a pattern, until it becomes her default setting. And one day when she's finally alone, her body says enough. Tears, shaking. Total collapse, not from loss, from months of emotional absence from her own life. Now let's back up. What actually caused this? It wasn't the charts. It wasn't the volatility. It was the gradual erosion of meaning. You see, every trade we place draws from something deeper inside us, our attention, our focus, our identity. And when we don't regularly replenish that source with purpose, we run dry. The World Health Organization defines burnout not just as fatigue, but as a state of cynicism, detachment, and inefficacy. Sound familiar? If you're honest, you've felt this creeping in before. Maybe not full collapse, but the signs were there. Winning trades that feel empty, increasing numbness during drawdowns, disconnect from relationships, sleep, and joy. That voice that says, maybe I just don't care anymore. Here's the dangerous part. The market won't warn you. You can be in a profit streak and still be burning out. You can look successful and be emotionally bankrupt. That's why the most dangerous form of burnout is the invisible one. So, how do you fight back? You refinance your psychological portfolio, just like you would a financial one. And the first step? Reconnect with why you trade beyond money. Because let's be honest, if you're only trading for financial gain, you're building on sand. The money will never be enough. And the pressure it brings, it'll crush you. So, journal weekly. Why do I trade beyond the numbers? What kind of life am I building through this? Who am I becoming in the process? These aren't cheesy self help questions. These are survival level diagnostics. Because when your why is clear, your resilience spikes. When it's not, you crumble under the smallest emotional weight. And here's something radical: treat your trades as experiments, not verdicts of your self worth. Every setup is data, every outcome is feedback. You're not proving anything, you're learning. That mindset shift alone can add years to your career and peace to your nervous system. Now, let me share the most overlooked tool in fighting burnout: celebrate meaning, not money. Your biggest win this week might not be a green day. It might be turning off the screens at 5 p.m. and actually being present with your family, walking away from a trade you knew was emotionally driven, saying no to an opportunity because your gut said you needed rest. That's profit. That's sustainability. And that's how you build a career that lasts decades, not just a few intense, high-stress years that leave you broken. Remember this: the market can be a vehicle for freedom or a monster that consumes you. What determines the outcome is the state of the driver. And if that driver is emotionally bankrupt, no amount of alpha will save you. So ask yourself right now, are you winning trades while losing yourself? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, that's your signal. It's time to pause. It's time to realign. It's time to rebuild meaning before burnout bankrupts you completely. You're not lazy. You're not undisciplined. You're not weak. But your brain, it's exhausted. Not because you've been doing something wrong, but because you've been trying to operate a high-performance machine without ever tuning the engine. Let's get something straight. Trading is a cognitive endurance sport. Every tick, every chart, every flickering red candle is a demand on your neurological hardware. And just like an athlete wouldn't show up to a world championship sleep-deprived, dehydrated, and eating junk food, you as a trader can't afford to neglect the biology behind your psychology. This is where biohacking enters the picture. No, we're not talking about implanting chips in your skull or drinking mushroom tea under a full moon. We're talking about scientifically backed methods to optimize your brain so it stops working against you during high stress sessions and starts working for you. Let's begin with the basics. Did you know that your gut bacteria directly influence your risk tolerance? It's true. Your gut isn't just a digestive system. It's often called your second brain. It produces over 90% of your body's serotonin, the neurotransmitter responsible for mood and decision making. When your gut is inflamed because of sugar, processed foods, or constant stress, it sends chaos to your brain. And that chaos, it shows up in your trades. Suddenly, setups that felt clear now seem foggy. You hesitate. You overthink. You exit early. You revenge trade, not because your strategy changed, but because your neurochemistry did. So what's the solution? Start with food. During trading hours, avoid processed sugar, fried foods, energy drinks. Instead, lean into omega-3 fats, salmon, walnuts, complex carbs, quinoa, sweet potato, hydration, electrolyte-balanced water. Fuel your brain like you're managing a Formula One car, not a clunky scooter. But nutrition is just one lever. Let's talk about meditation. No, this isn't about lighting incense or chanting in Sanskrit. This is neuroscience. Daily meditation literally shrinks your amygdala, the fear center of the brain, and strengthens your prefrontal cortex, the command center for logic and restraint. One study showed that 8 weeks of mindfulness training reduced emotional reactivity in traders by over 40%. Imagine staying calm in a flash crash. Imagine holding through volatility without shaking. Imagine seeing red candles and feeling curious, not panicked. That's the power of a trained mind. Start simple, 20 minutes every morning. Sit, breathe, observe thoughts, don't chase them. When you get distracted, and you will, return to the breath. You're not training peace, you're training presence. Presence equals power. Presence equals power. Let's stack another layer, cold exposure. A quick cold shower or ice bath in the morning activates your sympathetic nervous system in a controlled environment. This resets your tolerance to stress so that when the real stress shows up in your P&L, your body doesn't go into full meltdown mode. Plus, cold exposure triggers dopamine surges that last hours without the crash you get from coffee or stimulants. You don't need to be Wim Hof. Start with 30 seconds, work up to 2 to 3 minutes. The first week will suck. The second week will shift your psychology. By week 3, you'll crave it more than caffeine. Next, nootropics. Yes, smart drugs, but not the shady ones. I'm talking about well-studied natural compounds like lion's mane mushroom, enhances focus and neuroplasticity. L-theanine plus caffeine, clean energy without the jittery crash. Rhodiola rosea, reduces mental fatigue during high-pressure scenarios. Always do your own research, but understand this, you can chemically support better thinking. Now, let's be clear. Biohacking isn't about becoming superhuman. It's about removing the internal drag slowing you down. It's about giving your mind every chance to succeed. So when the pressure hits, you don't crumble. Let me tell you a story. Tom was a crypto trader with decent results, but during volatile weekends, he'd panic sell, scalp emotionally, or freeze up completely. He didn't need a new strategy, he needed a new biology. He overhauled his lifestyle, cut sugar, started meditating, added cold showers, took lion's mane and magnesium, removed blue light exposure before sleep. 3 months later, he wasn't just trading better, he was thinking clearer, feeling calmer, sleeping deeper. His trades didn't change. He did. That's the message here. You don't need a new indicator. You need a tuned up nervous system, because if your mind is frayed, foggy, and inflamed, even the best strategy will fail. So here's your checklist. Eliminate processed foods during trading hours. Meditate for 20 minutes daily. Add cold exposure 3 to 4 times a week. Try natural nootropics with research. Sleep 7 to 8 hours with reduced screen light. Journal your energy and focus daily. Track these metrics like your equity curve, because your body is your trading machine, your brain is your edge, and the clearer, cleaner, and calmer that system runs, the more you'll dominate chaotic markets with poise, precision, and presence. Let's be brutally honest for a second. How many times have you refreshed your chart in the last hour? Once every 5 minutes? Once every 30 seconds? And what were you really hoping to see? A setup, a candle confirmation, a moving average touch? Or were you chasing something deeper, something harder to name? That little jolt, that tiny hit of hope, that subtle dopamine surge that comes from maybe catching the next big move. Now here's the hard truth. You're not just trading, you're addicted. Not to money, not to markets, but to the chemical thrill of being close to action. This is the dopamine trap, and it's one of the most powerful, most overlooked forces sabotaging modern traders. Let me explain. Dopamine is your brain's reward chemical. It spikes when you anticipate something pleasurable, not even when you get it, but when you think it might be coming. That means every chart refresh, every app notification, every blinking number is a potential dopamine trigger. Now, pair that with intermittent reinforcement, the psychological principle behind casino slot machines. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Most of the time, you just almost win. That almost keeps you coming back. And your trading platform, it's been engineered to exploit this. Think about it, the colors, the flashing prices, the sound effects, the app UI designed to be just as sticky as TikTok or Instagram. Now ask yourself, how many trading apps do you have on your phone right now? If it's more than 3, you're not managing trades. You've built an addiction infrastructure. Let me paint you a picture. Tom is a part-time crypto trader. He starts his day checking Binance, then flips to TradingView, then back to MetaTrader, then Telegram, then Discord. He's not trading, he's chasing stimulation. His reward circuit is fried. He can't focus. He can't hold trades. He can't go an hour without pulling out his phone just to feel something. And when he wins, it's not even satisfying anymore because now the brain demands bigger spikes just to register normal excitement. A 3% gain? Meh. A $5 win? Barely worth smiling. His neurochemistry is numb. And when a losing streak hits, he crashes. Hard. Sleepless nights, trembling hands, sudden mood swings, literal withdrawal symptoms. You think this is about willpower? It's not. This is chemical warfare inside your brain. And it gets worse. The blue light from your screen, it suppresses melatonin, which destroys your sleep quality, which increases cortisol, which increases cravings, which lowers focus, which increases impulsivity. It's a loop, a feedback loop, and it's making you a worse trader every single day. So what's the solution? You need to break the loop. Here's how. Delete all trading apps from your phone. No exceptions. You are not a scalper at dinner. You are not monitoring price while brushing your teeth. If you need to check the market, use your desktop, intentionally, deliberately. No trading after dark. Once the sun sets, your brain is supposed to downshift. Instead, you're revving the engine at midnight. It's not heroic, it's self-sabotage. Set a strict screen curfew. Manual refresh only. Turn off auto-updating prices. You want less screen dopamine, not more. Train your brain to value analysis over reaction. Schedule screen breaks every hour. Use a timer. Every 60 minutes, stand up, walk away, breathe, reset your eyes and nervous system. You're not a robot. Count your dopamine inputs. Every app, every alert, every browser tab. If it's giving you a tiny high, it's controlling your biology. Audit your environment weekly. Let me say this clearly. Trading without dopamine discipline is just digital gambling in a suit. And don't get me wrong, dopamine isn't the enemy. Dopamine is motivation, focus, drive. But when you let it run wild, when you wire your trading habits around unpredictable spikes, you create a dependency that overrides logic. You stop trading setups. You start trading sensations. Now imagine a different picture. You sit down to trade with one platform, one strategy, one goal. Your phone is off, your breathing is calm. You analyze clearly, execute precisely, walk away confidently. No need to check 30 times. No addiction. Just focus. That's what happens when you retake control of your reward system. Because at the end of the day, your greatest edge isn't the indicators you use, it's the clarity of your internal state. So ask yourself honestly, are you trading or refreshing for a hit? Do you need price to move just to feel alive? Have wins become boring and losses emotionally catastrophic? If yes, you're in the trap. But you don't have to stay there. You can rewire, you can rebuild, you can reclaim your edge, not through more hustle, but through less noise. Let me leave you with this. Every chart refresh costs you clarity. Every app notification steals your focus. Every second you chase dopamine, you lose edge. So delete, unplug, reset, because the market will always offer you trades, but only you can protect your mind. Let me ask you something most traders never stop to consider. Why did you start trading? No, really, take a moment. Was it freedom, more time with family, the dream of controlling your future? Because for most of us, it was never about the charts. It was about what those charts represented. Autonomy, escape, possibility. But somewhere along the way, that purpose gets buried under stress, under screen time, under losses and ego and comparison, and suddenly you wake up one day and realize you're not chasing freedom anymore. You're just surviving the market. This is what I call purpose drift, when you forget why you started and only focus on how to keep going. You go from dreamer to grinder, from visionary to machine. And here's the dangerous part. The more mechanical you become, the more disconnected you get. Disconnected from your goals, from your values, from the version of you that once believed trading could change your life. Let me tell you about Mark. Mark was once fueled by purpose. He started trading to build a future for his family, a life where he could be home when his kids got off school, a life where he wouldn't miss another birthday because of work. And for a while, that dream lit him up. But then came the noise, losses, forums, pressure, Twitter, stress. He started measuring his worth by daily P&L, stopped going out, stopped calling his brother, stopped seeing the sun. One day he made a solid 5-figure week. But instead of celebrating, he opened a new chart. Why? Because winning wasn't enough anymore. Purpose had been replaced with performance addiction, and he didn't even notice until his daughter asked why he didn't smile anymore. That's when it hit him. He was trading for numbers, not for life. So, how do you fix it? You don't need a new system. You need a new relationship with the one thing that matters more than setups, your why. Here's your first mission: journal your purpose weekly. Write it down like it's your trading plan, because it is. Ask yourself, why do I trade beyond making money? What does success feel like, not just look like? What kind of life am I building through this? Make it raw, make it personal, make it real. Tape it to your wall, because when you can't answer those questions, you shouldn't be trading. Here's why: purpose creates resilience, resilience creates clarity, clarity creates consistency, and consistency is what builds wealth. Now let's get deeper. Redefine what a win is. Most traders define winning as green days, but that's short sighted. A real win might be walking away from the desk when you feel emotionally charged, saying no to a setup that looks tempting but violates your plan, stopping for the day after three losses instead of chasing. Why? Because each one of those decisions brings you closer to the kind of person you want to become. And that's the secret. Purpose isn't just what you want, it's who you're becoming to get there. Let me ask you, are you becoming someone you're proud of, or just someone who's profitable? Because they're not the same. One builds legacy, the other burns out. And I don't say that lightly. The trading world is full of ghosts, people who made money but lost everything else along the way: health, relationships, joy, sanity. Don't be one of them. Instead, build with intention. Create a purpose statement. One sentence, clear, convicting, true. Something like, I trade to create a life of freedom, contribution, and presence with my family. Or, I trade to master my mind and leave a legacy of calm strength in chaos. Now, every time you feel lost, reread it. When FOMO hits, when doubt creeps in, when you're tempted to trade just for action, go back to that sentence. Let it guide your risk, your time, your energy. Because here's the truth: purpose is your internal GPS. Lose it, and you'll end up anywhere. Burned out, bitter, broke. Hold on to it, and even drawdowns have direction. Even losses feel meaningful. Even struggle feels worth it. Let me leave you with a thought. Imagine trading for the next 5 years, not chasing every move, not refreshing in panic, not sacrificing your soul for percentages, but trading with depth, with vision, with peace, where every decision is rooted in who you want to become, not just you want to gain. That's what purpose-driven trading gives you. It's not fluff, it's not woo-woo, it's fuel, the kind that burns slow, burns clean, and lasts for decades. So ask yourself, do I remember why I started? And more importantly, am I still moving in that direction? If not, realign now, because the market doesn't care if you lose your way, but you should. Let's get something straight. Motivation will fail you. It will vanish on red days. It will disappear when you're sleep deprived. It will betray you when your trades go sideways and your confidence starts to slip. And when motivation fails, most traders fall with it. But the ones who survive, the ones who thrive over decades, not just quarters, they don't rely on motivation at all. They rely on systems. Let me say it another way. Your longevity in trading will never be built on how passionate you are. It will be built on how prepared you are when passion fades. Nash enter, anti-burnout system architecture. Sounds complex, but it's not. It's a mental infrastructure designed not to help you trade perfectly, but to help you keep trading when everything inside you wants to quit. Think of it like a fortress, not built during the storm, built before it hits. Because if you only fix your psychology after you're fried, you're already too late. So what goes into this mental fortress? 3 pillars. 1, energy management. 2, emotional risk protocols. 3, meaning-based metrics. 1, energy management. Look, you don't need more hours in front of the screen. You need better energy per hour behind it. This means weekly energy audits. Every Friday, rate your physical energy, mental clarity, and emotional bandwidth on a scale of 1 to 10. If any are below a 6, next week's trading hours should be adjusted down, not up. Set a daily screen time cap. Max 6 hours of active screen time. That's not punishment. That's performance protection. Block your day into energy zones. Trade during your peak hours. For most people, 9 a.m., 12 p.m. Use the rest of the day for review, journaling, rest. You're not paid to stare at charts. You're paid to make clear decisions, and clarity lives in well-managed energy. Number two, emotional risk protocols. You wouldn't trade without a stop loss. So why are you trading without an emotional stop loss? You need a way to detect when you become the risk. This is how. Daily mood check-ins. Before any session, ask, am I tired? Am I emotionally charged? Am I overconfident or angry? Rate yourself 1 to 10. If you're below 7, cut your position size in half or skip the session entirely. Red flag rules. If 3 or more of the following show up in the same week: insomnia, irritability, overtrading, isolation, skipping self-care, then your system automatically triggers a trading pause. This isn't about weakness. This is about data-driven self-defense. Because when you trade while compromised, the damage isn't just in P&L, it's in confidence, clarity, and long-term stability. Protect your edge by protecting your state. 3. Meaning-based metrics. Most traders measure performance with 2 numbers: win rate and profit. But over time, those become meaningless without context. That's why you need a second layer of KPIs. Energy score 1 to 10, relationship quality 1 to 10, life satisfaction 110, purpose alignment yes, no. These are your internal P&L. Because what good is a $10,000 month if you're emotionally dead, socially disconnected, and spiritually numb? Track these metrics weekly. Plot them on a chart next to your trading results. Watch what happens. You'll start to see the real patterns. You'll notice that your best trades come when your energy is high, relationships are solid, purpose is aligned. And you'll see that your worst periods often coincide with emotional volatility, lack of sleep, or hidden resentment you never processed. That's when the system saves you, because instead of asking, why did I bomb this week? You'll know exactly why. And better yet, you'll know what to fix. Now let's zoom out. This system, it's not static. It evolves with you. You'll refine it every month with monthly strategic reviews, not just for setups, but for psychological sustainability. Reset rituals. End each month with a break, even just a day. Mark the close. Clean the slate. Start fresh. Mission statement check-ins. Revisit your why. If it's changed, update it. Your system should always serve your current self, not a past version of you. Let me tell you about Jason, a discretionary futures trader with a brilliant mind but a scattered lifestyle. He made 200K hours in a year and lost it just as fast. Why? Because he had no system, no energy audits, no emotional check-ins, no performance review beyond net profit. He was trading with a Ferrari engine and no brakes. So he rebuilt. Capped screen time, began weekly audits, started journaling, not just trades, but state of mind. Within a year, his equity curve stabilized, but more importantly, his mental health stabilized. He slept, he laughed again, he started showing up for his family, and yes, he became profitable again. But this time, it was sustainable. That's what anti-burnout architecture gives you. It doesn't make you invincible, it makes you resilient, it makes you steady, it gives you a structure that holds you when your mind tries to sabotage you, because it will. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So build now, not when you're desperate, not when you're bleeding. Build now while you're still clear enough to choose it. Because once this system is in place, you no longer fear volatility. You no longer depend on motivation. You simply operate with grace, with discipline, with peace. Imagine this. It's a perfect setup. All the indicators align, the volume confirms, the breakout is clean, your plan is crystal clear. But you hesitate. Something in your gut tightens. Your palms are sweaty. Your mind starts racing. What if I'm wrong? You freeze. Then miss the move entirely. Not because the strategy failed, but because you did. And this is where most traders stop. They blame timing, blame the market, blame the setup. But here's the truth. You didn't miss the trade. You missed your state. You weren't calm. You weren't clear. You weren't emotionally aligned. That's why you didn't pull the trigger. That's why you hesitated, or worse, overtraded out of panic later. This is why emotional intelligence is the real edge in trading. Because while everyone else is trying to predict the next market move, the smartest traders are learning to predict themselves. Let me explain. Emotional intelligence isn't about being nice. It's not about bottling your feelings or pretending to be Zen. It's about this: being aware of your current mental and emotional state, knowing how that state affects your decisions, and having a system in place to adjust your behavior accordingly. In trading, your emotional state is the lens through which you see every chart. A tired trader sees a breakdown where there's just a retracement. An anxious trader exits early on a perfect setup. An overconfident trader sizes up right before a reversal. Your emotions distort perception. And when you can't see clearly, you can't act wisely. Let's get tactical. Start with this ritual. Rate your state before every trading session. Use a simple 1 to 10 scale. 10 equals laser focused, calm, clear. 1 exhausted, reactive, emotionally charged. If you're below a 7, reduce your position size by 50% or don't trade at all. Why? Because just like you wouldn't enter a trade without technical confirmation, you shouldn't enter a trade without emotional confirmation either. Low quality state equals high risk execution. Now here's the next layer. Identify your trigger emotions. Everyone has one. For some, it's fear of loss, missing out, or being wrong. For others, it's anger after a stop out or drawdown. For some, it's euphoria after a win that makes you feel invincible. You need to know your emotional tells, like a poker player reads facial expressions. Ask yourself, when do I overtrade? When do I freeze? What emotions consistently lead to my worst decisions? Pattern recognition isn't just for charts, it's for you. Because once you know your emotional patterns, you can build systems to catch them before they take control. Let me tell you about David. He's a prop trader with a killer eye for price action, but a dangerous ego. After every big win, he felt untouchable. So he'd size up, break rules, trade emotionally, and almost always, he'd give it all back within 48 hours, until he implemented this one rule. After a green day, 3R, he takes the next day off. Mandatory. Not as a reward, as a reset. That one rule added 15% to his annual return. Why? Because he finally outsmarted himself. Let's go deeper. Create state-based playbooks. Most traders have a setup playbook, but do you have a playbook for you? You should. Here's how it works. For each emotional state, calm, anxious, overexcited, tired, create rules. Calm, 8 to 10, full risk allocation, A plus setups only, neutral, 6 to 7, half size, strict entry rules, compromised, 1 to 5, no trading. Focus on journaling, rest, review. This turns trading into a dynamic system, not just based on what the market is doing, but on who is showing up to trade it. And that's the missing piece for most people. They optimize for external conditions, but ignore the internal ones. And here's what makes it worse. The market rewards emotionally unfit traders temporarily. You can be anxious and still hit a win. You can be reckless and still catch a lucky breakout. But eventually, your emotional blind spots will find you. And they won't just cost you money, they'll cost you confidence, consistency, peace. Let me give you a line to tattoo on your brain. The best technical setup in the world is worthless in the hands of an emotionally compromised trader. That's not an opinion. That's a fact, proven over and over again across hedge funds, prop floors, and retail accounts. So what do elite traders do differently? They make emotional intelligence part of the system, daily state check-ins, journal patterns and reactions, create playbooks for mood-based execution, reflect on trades emotionally, not just technically. They train like athletes, not just with reps, but with recovery, because EQ is a skill. It can be trained, developed, refined, and the better you get at reading yourself, the better you'll get at reading the market. Because here's the final truth. Every chart is just a mirror. It reflects your beliefs, your fears, your biases, your ego. Master your inner world, and the outer one starts making a whole lot more sense. So before you ask, is this a breakout or fake out? Ask, am I trading from clarity or emotion? Before you say, I'm going all in on this setup, ask, is my state stable enough to handle the outcome? And before you chase that revenge trade, that risky size up, that FOMO scalp, take one deep breath and ask, is this me or my trigger? Because the real edge isn't in predicting the next candle, it's in predicting yourself. Take a breath. Let everything you've heard sink in, because now we've reached the truth that underpins everything. Your greatest edge in trading is not a strategy, it's not a system, it's not alpha, it's you. Your ability to stay calm in chaos, to remain grounded during euphoria, to see clearly when others are blinded by fear. That's what separates the survivors from the ones who vanish silently after one too many bad weeks. The market is a mirror. It reflects back your discipline, your impatience, your wounds, your ego. And for most traders, that mirror becomes unbearable. That's why 80% quit. Not because they didn't get it, but because they never learned to manage themselves. They knew price action, but not emotion. They studied indicators, but ignored their energy. They built technical edge, but had zero emotional resilience. And eventually, that gap caught up to them. So if you've been looking for the secret, this is it. Not another course, not another indicator, not another 7-step system to snipe breakouts, but a decision to stop obsessing over what the market is doing and start mastering what you're bringing to it. Because when your internal world is stable, the external one becomes manageable, even profitable. So, what does that mastery look like? It's logging off early because your energy is off. It's sitting through a pullback without second guessing. It's watching others chase hype while you hold your ground. It's being profitable and present with your family. It's knowing when to step back, not because you're weak, but because you're wise. This is what real mastery looks like. It's not loud, it's not flashy, it's sustainable. Let me leave you with this. Outlasting the market has nothing to do with luck and everything to do with how well you manage your mind. The game isn't to win once, it's to keep playing clear, strong, and sane long after others have burned out, blown up, or bowed out. And that requires a new kind of edge, an edge built on emotional intelligence, sustainable systems, self-awareness, purpose. This is where your evolution begins, from reactive trader to psychological master. So, as we close, ask yourself, who are you becoming through trading? Are you building a life or trading to escape one? Is your current path sustainable for 20 years or just impressive for 20 days? Answer honestly and then choose. Choose sustainability over speed, clarity over chaos, internal power over external validation. Because when you master yourself, the market stops being your enemy, and starts becoming your ally. Final call to action. If this resonated with you, don't just watch and forget. Pick one insight, just one, and implement it this week. Comment below with the one shift you're making today, and if you're ready to build this edge long term, hit subscribe. Remember, the market will still be here tomorrow. The real question is, will you still be here, mentally intact, to trade it? Your future trading self is watching.